Show on KTRS.
What a magnificent soul it was. We will miss him deeply. May God bless the memory of Nelson Mandela. May God bless the people of South Africa.
World leaders gather in Johannesburg to mourn former President Nelson Mandela as that country is commemorating and memorializing Nelson Mandela. Alex Marquardt, ABC News correspondent, is there. Alex, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
We're doing great. Tell us, set the scene for us there.
Well, the memorial service for Mandela just wrapped up here. It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it went on about 3.5 hours at FNB's famous soccer stadium. It was both, a time to mourn and a time to celebrate. The weather sort of set the tone for the day. It's been driving rain, and so not as many people turned out as were perhaps expected. But this was a celebration of this man's life. The tens of thousands of people who did turn out were singing and dancing all around the arena throughout the entire ceremony. And we're certainly appreciative of the speech that President Barack Obama gave, thanking South Africa for giving Mandela to the world, talking about his role here in South Africa, in the world, and what he meant to him personally, the inspiration that he gave Obama. And that speech was extremely well received.
You can't help but think that President Obama, who has some African roots, is standing up as President of the United States, the world's most powerful country, and giving a speech at Nelson Mandela's funeral. That's pretty extraordinary when you come to think of it.
Well, it certainly is, and of course, to some extent, Nelson Mandela paved the way, being the first black president of South Africa. So, it was less extraordinary when so it was certainly extraordinary for Americans, but it wasn't unheard of when President Obama was elected. And President Obama touched on that and has touched on that in the past, the inspiration that Mandela gave him as a man to go into service and then into politics and serve the country and try to become president. So they didn't necessarily have the closest bond. That's because Mandela had already gotten on in age by the time Obama became president. Mandela was quite close to Bill Clinton, but that didn't take away from the fact that there was something of a mentor-mentee relationship and that Obama held Mandela in the highest regard.
How many people were there? Any estimates?
The stadium seats about 94,000. It's Johannesburg. It's South Africa's biggest stadium, and it was about 3/4 full, so somewhere between 65 to 75,000 people. There were some empty seats, but as I was saying, it was a very celebratory mood, and that peaked sort of with President Obama's speech, and then people started to leave, partially because of the rain, which has been coming down all day long, but also because specifically when President Jacob Zuma of South Africa started speaking, he was not very popular with the crowd today, lots of boos, and so that begs the question of who inherits Mandela's mantle, and I think a lot of people here will tell you it is not President Zuma.
This is a week-long ceremony, is it not?
It's a week-long period of mourning, which started on Sunday with a day of prayer and remembrance. This is the biggest event likely to take place, individual event. Mandela will start lying in state tomorrow in the capital of Pretoria. He will do so for 3 days before being taken back to the Eastern Cape, the province where he grew up, for the funeral on Sunday, and then he will be buried in a private ceremony in that village where he grew up.
Yeah. His first wife, Winnie Mandela, was up there as well, wasn't she?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, she continued to play a very big role in his life and his family's life right until the end. There's less of this notion of divorce in South African culture than there is in the States. I mean, she was still very much a part of the family. She was at his bedside when he died on Thursday night, so it only made sense that she would be up there, not only because of her proximity to the family, but she's also very much a powerful figure, an iconic figure here in South Africa, so that would be expected. She certainly did not fade into the background after she divorced Nelson Mandela all those years ago.
Interesting. Jimmy Carter was there, Bill Clinton was there, President George W. Bush was there. Outside of President Obama, who else spoke?
Raul Castro of Cuba, most interestingly, he was invited to speak, and that was a really interesting aside when President Obama got up on the stage and shook his hand. And perhaps that's in the mood of the day, this mood of reconciliation, this mood of putting our differences aside and coming together. Some other dignitaries spoke, including the Secretary General of the UN, Ban Ki-moon, and then President Jacob Zuma wrapped things up at the end.
That's Alex Marquardt, ABC News correspondent, live in Johannesburg, who was there for the funeral of Nelson Mandela. Alex, thank you for joining us on what is a very busy and difficult day for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You got it. 7:56 here on the Big 550 KTRS. Outside of a short delay, that's pretty extraordinary technology. Talking to somebody who was in Johannesburg
South
live,
Africa.
watched the Nelson Mandela funeral just wrap up a few moments ago. That's pretty extraordinary.
They said, it was raining there. They said that rain in South Africa at a funeral was actually good luck, that he will go on to his next life. So that's kind of a good sign.
Right.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty extraordinary individual. 27 years in prison, and then towards the later in his prison, they tried to bait him or goad him or bribe him to take the money and go and get out and denounce, and he wouldn't do it. Pretty tough after you're locked away for 20 years. 25 years
Right.
to turn down an opportunity to be free.
And then leading his country after getting out of prison and living such a full life after that,
Right.
so many years. Is
Pretty
really
extraordinary.
amazing.
Yeah, extraordinary man. All right, next hour, Pat Blassie will join us. Stephen Wolf from the Rep. All that coming up straight ahead. More sports, too. Let's check in with Tim Weiland, who is sponsored by